Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report for September 27th, 2017. We're in the 8th year of Chungi, 8th day of the 8th month.
Hallelujah.
3/8.
That's a new start.
Yes. I'm sure there's something significant to that, but I'm not sure what it is. The day of going beyond the 38th parallel? I don't know.
A true mother has been born.
Yes.
A new beginning
Yes.
has emerged.
It's, we can start going into that, but let's do the weather first. Let's do the weather.
Go back to
59
the mundane.
degrees, dense fog in the Cheonggyegung area this morning, and it's going to be another hot one, 86 degrees.
Wow.
But today is the last day of our Indian summer. And the king explained about Indian summer on Monday, where he said that the American Indians, which apparently is their preferred term, according to Chief Burke, and the king explained that because the Indians were living in nature, they had to spend a lot of time preparing for winter, and it was good that they had this extra period in the fall when the weather would turn warm again, and they would have an extra period of warmth in which to prepare for the winter. We're experiencing highs, daytime highs that we've not seen in this area since 1970. I think either tying or going slightly beyond the records that were set back then. But this is not global warming. It's just something that happens over time. You know what I've noticed in the reporting on the weather and on the temperature each day is that over time the historical average temperature for each day goes up and up and up and up and up as you're going from spring to summer. And I think it was August 2nd. I think it was August 2nd that we reached the peak. And then from then, it's again going down. And it's very smooth. There's no fluctuation. No fluctuation at all.
No radical climate change.
No, there's no fluctuation at all. It goes up 1 degree at a time, and then it starts coming down 1 degree at a time. And so over time, all these fluctuations, short-term fluctuations, level out. And you have a very, very steady increase and then a very steady decline. And right now we are going through that very steady decline. And yes, right now the historical average for these days is 69 degrees, and we're at 86. And so it's quite a bit warmer than the historical average, but that means that there were some times when it was quite a bit colder than the historical average, because it all averages out. It all averages out. But then tomorrow, it's going to be a different story. Tomorrow it's only going to get up into the 70s. 71 degrees actually is the forecast high for tomorrow. And then it'll be in the upper 60s after that, which of course, as I said, is the normal for this time of year. So we're going to drop about 20 degrees over the next 2 days. High of 67 is forecast for Friday. So about 20 degrees. So people need to be careful about their core body temperature. You know, we used to this concept of core body temperature, quite frankly, is not new, but it didn't used to be called that. It used to be called, take your coat off when you're in the house, you're going to catch your death of cold when you go back outside. That's what it used to be called.
Moms around the world.
Yes. Moms around the world understood this concept very well. I remember being told in no uncertain terms to take my coat off when I was in the house. Because it might not feel bad when I was in the house, but then my body would be all sweating and everything, and when I went back outside, I would very easily catch cold, and so I got that education at very early years. All right.
Well, it was really fortunate that we had this kind of weather, this Indian summer during these.
Started, by the way, on September 23rd.
Yeah, these historic events. I mean, logistically speaking, it made our event. We had close to 600 people here in our small church.
Yes.
And we were overflowing at every seam.
Yes.
And if the weather had been difficult, it would have really made a very different experience for everybody. But everybody could enjoy the outside. Even at nighttime, the stars were brilliant. It was like 70 degrees.
Yes.
With the stars out. It was quite magical and beautiful. And
for everybody to look up and say, where's Virgo? Where's Virgo?
Right, exactly. That's true. The constellations were in full adornment.
Yes. And that's one thing really, really nice about living around here is that you can see the stars.
Yeah.
You know, in Seoul, I could not see the stars.
We have some Japanese fellows staying at our farm, and they're blown away because in Tokyo and Osaka they can't see any stars.
That's right.
It's just
That's right.
not
That's
something.
right.
They're kind of like they're starstruck.
Literally starstruck. Yes. What are all those?
Yeah.
What's all that
really,
white stuff up
if
there?
you're not used to seeing it, it's probably like a miracle.
Yes. So we've had very wonderful weather, which started on September 23rd and is continuing until today, and then tomorrow we get back to reality.
Wonderful.
Yes. All right. I'd like to go to my Rima now. I'm in John 19, which is also about mothers, by the way. I'm going to read from 25 to 27. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother and his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus therefore saw his mother and disciple standing by, whom he loved, he saith unto his mother, Woman, behold thy son. Then saith he to the disciple, Behold thy mother. And from that hour that disciple took her unto his own home. You know, earlier in Jesus' course, he said, woman, what do I have to do with thee, or something like that. And he said, people he who does the will of my Father is my mother and my brother. And here he says to his disciple, and I'm going to assume that it's John, the disciple whom he loved. I'm going to assume that this is John referring to himself. Woman, behold thy son. So again he calls his mother woman. He didn't say, Mother, behold thy... No, that's how he said the woman. Again he refers to his mother, his physical mother, as a woman. Behold thy son. So basically he is asking, and then he says to John, Behold thy mother. And so he says, okay, John, this is your mother. Take care of her. So from that hour, that disciple took her unto his own home. And so he went. So Mary was taken care of by John from that point. As Jesus was on the cross, he's getting ready to die. He's almost dead, and he's saying, he's by referring to Mary as woman again, he's highlighting the fact that she failed in her mission, and she did not do what she was supposed to, and perhaps she realized that at that time. But anyway, let's also read from our Cheonsonggyong reading, Cheonsonggyong Rima this morning, which I picked up prior to the Korean service this morning. And it's from the book on the root of book 11, the root of the universe, chapter 2, and then section 2. And I'm on page 1729 in the English version here. Where does God enter? He enters the mind of Adam and Eve. Does God have... Yes, okay. Does God have dual characteristics? These two characteristics enter one root and bind together. This is how their sons and daughters are connected through love, and with the body, mind, and spirit firmly rooted. With the sons and daughters of love, born from there, go to hell. No one could deal arbitrarily with it. The absolute body, mind, spirit, absolute man and woman are united through the sexual organs, which are the source of life, love, and lineage, based on God's absolute love. Yeah, I always get a different feeling from the English really always gives me a different feeling from the Korean. That's why I had to do a double take to make sure I was in the right place, because I am in the right place, but the whole feeling is somehow quite different. And I'm not quite sure why it is. I would have to analyze the translation a bit more. But especially this idea of one root, I get a very different. That's why I sort of stopped there, because I was thinking, am I in the wrong place? No. one root, though, means one lineage.
Mm-hmm.
That man and woman are united through this one lineage. So he says that these two, looking at the Korean now, these two go in centering on one lineage and are planted there. And then sons and daughters are connected there. So the man and woman are united in one lineage, in one root. And I'm very. And I was hoping, that God. I was really praying last night and this morning that God would give me a rhema that would somehow relate to the events of September 23rd. And I think that's exactly what has happened, because on the one hand, in the Gospel of John, we have verses about the failed mother, although this is not the wife of Jesus, but the mother of Jesus, but still the failed woman in Jesus' course. Whereas here in the Cheonseonggyong, we have a rhema about the victorious man and woman, a man and woman who are victorious and who are perfected. When he says that, where does God enter? He enters the mind of Adam and Eve. That, of course, means, and also, maum is a very difficult word to translate. One Japanese author, the Japanese word for maum is kokoro, and one Japanese author wrote a piece, a work titled Kokoro, and the man who translated that, I think it was Sidon Sticker, a man who translated that into English, wrote a foreword to that book on that word, just several pages, just trying to explain to English readers about this word, maum in Korean, kokoro in Japanese, and then in English, we are never sure whether to translate it heart or mind, because you can go either way. It depends on the context and what you think. So again, this is the judgment of the translator, all right? So
and in English, that's a big difference between heart and mind.
It is, isn't it? And so when you say here that God enters the mind of Adam and Eve, but here is God enters the maum of Adam and Eve. So do you translate maum as mind or as heart? Because, Father always talked about what? Mind-body unity, right? But the mind there, the word that is translated there as mind, is actually maum. 몸과 마음. Father always talked about 몸과 마음. 몸과 마음. So there, in our English translation of Divine Principle, we call it body and mind, or mind and body. But is that does that really convey that? I think that's the reason that I get such a different feeling from reading the Korean and reading the English. That just beginning this word mind is very sort of a kind of cold, isn't it? Whereas heart is much warmer, and heart is more heartistic. Shimjong, right? Whereas mind is more kind of scientific and more clinical, I think.
Intellect.
Intellectual, the intellect, that kind of thing. So that really gives the whole paragraph a different feeling. Anyway, so that is my rhema for this morning. Let's not dwell too much. I think I've made the point that the English translation of the Cheonseonggyong leaves much to be desired. Part of it is because of part of it can be improved, but I think this is an example where it cannot be improved. This is a limitation of the English language, I think. And I think this is a point where people will just have to learn Korean.
It always comes back to that. And I remember Father saying that a few times.
It does, doesn't it? It does. And, I want to, I hope this doesn't turn into a rant, but I do want to say one thing. Is I hope that our community can become a community that gives more encouragement to people to learn Korean. When I first went to Korea, I did not speak Korean. I learned, just a little bit of Korean in the seminary. I was in the seminary from 75 to 77 in the first class, and in the final semester, and so this would be the spring of 77, I guess, there was a Korean class that was offered. And I thought, well, you know, yeah, might be a good idea. I mean, this is, after all, an organization that's headquartered in Korea, so there might be a time when Korean might come into use sometime. And at that time, I had never even seen the Korean alphabet. People, I think, probably people now, general members now, I think, Greg, you know more Korean now than I did before I took that class.
That's pretty bad.
Because at least you know what a Korean alphabet looks like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I'd never seen it. I had no idea what the Korean alphabet looked like. And I got in there. I think for some reason I started the class a day late. And I found that other classmates already were learning how to count, you know, 1, 2, 3, 하나, 둘, 셋. And I thought, wow, I'm behind here. I better kind of catch up. So anyway, we were taught the Korean alphabet and how to ask a taxi driver to go to Namdaemun and that kind of stuff. And you know, during the entire semester I'm talking about now. And we were also taught to memorize the final verse of what at that time was My Pledge, not the Family Pledge, but what we had at that time was called My Pledge. And there were 5 verses, and I think, as I recall, and we were taught to memorize the final verse in that. Not the whole thing, but just the one. And our teacher, our Korean teacher, Mr. Pyun, as I believe, he was not a member, but David Kim hired him to teach us Korean. And he would make fun of the fact that we could not correctly pronounce the name of our own church. We could not pronounce Unification Church in Korean correctly, and he kept ragging us on that. But then when I got to Korea, I still knew very little Korean. First couple of days after I was there, well, first of all, I arrived at the airport. Let me spend a little bit of time on this. Maybe it'll give some context to people why they need to learn Korean. I got to the airport, and in those days, communication between Korea and the United States was very, very difficult. Even inside Korea was very, very difficult. I mean, not like today where you have, you know, free international calling or anything like that. This is a completely different world, all right? And so when I went to Korea, I was given a slip of paper, or I was given a name and a phone number. The name was Reverend Lee. That's all. I was to go to Korea, call this phone number, and connect with a Reverend Lee.
How many Reverend Lees are there?
I thought there would only be one. You got to understand, I knew nothing about Korea. All right? I mean, we were taught that it was the chosen nation. They all wore white clothing, and that was it. So I get to Gimpo Airport. At that time, Incheon was not yet built. I get to Gimpo Airport, and I go through customs, and I find myself a public telephone. No cell phones, all right, kids? No cell phones. I find myself a public telephone, and I dial this number, and I get a kind of a strange sound. You know, it's obviously not ringing, all right? It's going boop, 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 something like that. I don't know if the telephone's broken or if it's busy signal. I don't know what it is. So I hang up. And there's a telephone book nearby. And so I knew enough of thanks to Professor Pyun, I knew what the name of the church was in Korean. And I knew the alphabet. And so I used that telephone book to find the telephone number for the Unification Church. And so I called it, and sure enough, this time someone answers.
In Korean.
In Korean. So I said, well, Reverend Lee. You know, just saying it in English, you know, Reverend Lee. And so a Reverend Lee answers. He comes to the phone. But I cannot communicate with him. I later found out that this was Reverend E. Johan, a 36 couple, who was at that time the head pastor at the headquarters church. So it was most likely it was him. But the Reverend Lee that I was supposed to was a different Reverend Lee, not at the headquarters church, but at another organization. So anyway, I hung up and I called my original number again, and this time someone did answer, and someone did come to pick me up. And after I got there, I finally found out who this Reverend Lee was. So that's where I started when I first arrived in Korea. And just another short story. When first couple of days, I went out walking around. I want to explore, right? I went out walking around, and I got lost. And so again, I had the telephone number this time of my office, and so I went into a phone booth and called and said, "Where are you?" And I looked around for a street sign. In the United States, you have street signs, right? With here, this street, that street, and so I was looking around for a street sign. And I saw something that I thought, okay, this must be Korea's version of a street sign. And so I started reading it off, and I got halfway through, and I realized that it was actually an advertisement for Hyundai tires. So I hung up, embarrassed. I couldn't tell her where I was, the woman who answered the phone, because all I knew was I was near a advertisement for a Hyundai tire. So I finally stumbled, wandered around and found my way back. But that was where I was at the beginning. I knew the alphabet, and I could read the alphabet. I could make out. So that's a hyun, and then that's a de, and then you got a ta, and then a e. And then oh man, that's Hyundai tire. What am I doing? Then later that month, I met my wife. We were matched at the end of my first month in Korea, and I knew enough to tell the taxi driver to go to Namdaemun, and she knew a little bit more English, maybe twice as much English as I knew Korean. Then she went out, a month later she went out pioneer witnessing, and so we agreed that we would write each other letters, and we would write in our own language. And so it would be up to the person who received the letter to decipher it. And so, I got myself a dictionary, and she wrote me about once a week, and so it was very, very frustrating. For one thing, her handwriting was not the same as the print in the textbooks. She didn't write the way the textbooks were printed. So making out the alphabet I had to learn the alphabet all over again. And then, of course, I knew Japanese, and so the grammar, if I could figure out what the words were, the grammar was not so difficult, but figuring out the words was difficult. And then, of course, I would go through the dictionary and try to figure out the words and stuff like that. And so this kind of process, he wants me to stop. No, Rio, come on, let me go longer. The first letter I got, I made a mistake. I took it to the office and I asked someone to translate it. That was a mistake.
Sensitive material.
Sensitive material. It got passed around the office. Oh, look how cute. Oh, look how cute. Oh, look how much she says she loves him. Oh, look how cute this is. It got passed around the office. That day, I swore that I was going to learn this language if it killed me. I was never, ever going to ask anyone to translate the letters from my wife ever again. And that was strong motivation.
Yeah.
Very strong motivation. Very, very strong motivation. To not rely on a translator. And actually, you know what? I got to say this. A translator is a crutch. All right? Mm-hmm. A translator is a crutch. And if you're always relying on a translator, you're never going to learn. You're never going to learn Korean. And I don't think I do people favors by translating for them. Basically, I'm undermining their motivation.
You're enabling them.
I'm enabling their failure. Yes. So I try to pull back as much as possible. I mean, sometimes, you know, it's for a meeting, for example, to actually accomplish its purpose, there has to be translation. I can understand that. But I really think it's better for me to pull back as much as possible, and to let, for example, for one thing, there are other people who are capable of translating, and their Korean will improve or their English will improve by translating through the translation process. And so I think it's the right. I think it is the right thing for me to do, to be kind of selective, you know. So oh, Tim, we're having a small meeting with 2 or 3 people. Can you come and translate? No.
Where'd Tim go? Tim has this. You have this magical way to disappear.
Yes.
And nobody knows where you are.
Yes.
You must go into some closet somewhere.
How did we get there from John 19? I don't know. But anyway.
Very nice story.
Oh, I know, because of the difference in the Cheonsonggyong. Very, very different spirit that I get from the English and the Korean. Yeah, and the limitations. You know, Cheonsonggyong does need to be revised. The translation does need to be
on the English side.
I'm sorry, the English translation does need to be revised.
Not the Korean.
Not the Korean. But even the revision will have its limitations, because, you know, like that. Maum will never be fully translated into English. There just isn't a word in English. It's either mind or heart, or it's actually neither of the two. But when you're translating, you have to choose one or the other. And sometimes you choose mind, sometimes you choose heart. For example, we always say the heart of God, right? The heart of God. Well, sometimes heart is a translation of maum, sometimes it's a translation of 심정. It's actually often a translation of 심정, which I think it should not be. I think probably we should simply, just like we say songsang and hyeongsang, I think probably we should also add 심정 to the English language and define it in English. You know, we have a definition of 심정. What is it? An irrepressible impulse in a subject partner to experience joy by giving love to an object partner. So I think that's the correct definition. It's defined in OSTP. So we can add these words to the English. You know, English has incorporated a lot of words from a lot of languages. If you can add sushi, you can certainly add 심정, in my opinion. All right, let's end it there, and let's for this segment, which went on for half an hour, and let's take a break and come back with starting with the news now from a Cheonggyu perspective.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today. Car Arms, Magnum Research.
Welcome back to the King's Report for September 27th, 2017. Eighth year of Chungi, 8th month and 8th day. The 3 8s have come together. Of course, the 8th, let's count here. Chungi 8, 8th month, 8th day, 8 a.m., 8th minute, 8th second, in the year in which the king has turned 38.
Wow.
We have 7 8s. That's got to mean something. It's got to mean something. We have 7 8s.
I think it's it's
quick. Set up an offering table.
I think the second king talked about a cosmic shift, right?
Yes.
September 23rd, and
yes.
This morning driving in, I felt probably the spirit world with True Father is celebrating for multiple days here.
Yes.
Maybe 8 days of celebration as well.
Oh, but you know what happened in Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
Yes, the king announced that women can drive, starting in June 2018. Don't get too excited now.
Women better learn how to drive before they...
I have a suspicion that they've been learning already. Well, some of them anyway. Yeah. But that is very interesting to me. That Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and right after, we have a True Mother. That this thing happens in Saudi Arabia. That they finally allow women to drive. Of course, it's a very, very small step, all right? I mean, this is ridiculous. The fact that they were not allowing women to drive in the first place was ridiculous. In our family, my daughter is the best driver, actually.
Oh, yeah. Statistically, women are much safer, especially in the younger years, 18 to 25.
Oh, really?
Women are much more safer, and insurance rates reflect that. Young men are the highest. They have to pay the highest premiums.
That's right.
I know. I have 2 sons.
Yes.
It was outrageous.
Yes.
But yeah, it's good for people to know. Maybe people didn't even know that Saudi Arabia didn't allow women to drive. So this is good for the word to get out there.
So I wish we understood more about this, but in the perfection stage of the growing period, OSDP teaches that in the perfection stage, no one teaches you what to do or where to go. The perfection stage is a stage where you have to figure it out for yourself. Up until the top of the growth stage, you have that the course, that's laid out, and so there's a course that you can follow. But once you get into the perfection stage, you're kind of on your own, and it's a process of doing things not because you're told, but because you can figure, okay, this is the right thing to do. This is the right way to go.
Based on your conscience.
Based on your conscience, yeah. Based on your conscience, and of course based on God's Word. By studying God's Word. And this is actually the place where the Han Mother was at the time of Father Songhua. No one could tell her what she had to do. Father actually removed himself. Because until then, he had been telling her, okay, go here on this date, and here's your manuscript, read this, this is your speech, and so the whole thing was scripted for her. But then she had to be placed in a position where no one could tell her what to do, but she had to do the right thing. And she did. She did not. She failed. Because, of course, there was a reason for that. Things have been building up. She'd built up this resentment, and so she could not. Of course, if you ask in prayer, though, you can receive guidance even in that kind of a situation. Whereas our True Mother Kang, did do that. She was able to come here, and then, despite all the persecution, she stayed here and stood strong with the king.
Did that on her own.
Did that on her own, yes. And then she was able to have victory. And so that is why she is the True Mother at the perfection stage. She's not, some people say she's replacing the Han Mother. She's not replacing the Han Mother. She's going beyond the Han Mother. She's going beyond the Han Mother. She's in a place now where the Han Mother never was. So she's not really replacing the Han Mother. She's going that extra, that final stage now is what she's doing.
It's fair to say that the Han Mother was victorious in the formation and growth.
Yes, and this is the point that Reverend Yu made. During the break, we talked about going to the NFL. We will get there, but let's do this first. Yeah, and we're actually, my wife actually is transcribing Reverend Yu's remarks on Sunday, and we're going to get those out in Korean, and we're going to get those out in English as well. But he made a very, very important point that the Han Mother was victorious in 6 out of 8 stages. 6 out of 8 stages. But at that 6th stage, she became arrogant. And because of that, she failed to go to the 7th stage. And what happened on Saturday, September 23rd, was that a woman was able to go to the 7th stage for the first time in human history. This is the first time in human history. This is why Saturday's event was something that had never happened before in human history and will never happen again, because it never needs to be. It never needs to happen again. This is it. This is it. This is what needed to happen in the Garden of Eden. This is going beyond the fall now. This is going now. We're now in the perfection stage. We have a true mother in the perfection stage, which never happened before. The Han Mother never got there. She never got there. And in the 65 years that True Mother Kang was following Father, Father also was guiding her through these 6 stages, because she was the she was the kind of the plan B. Because Father, because he's responsible for the providence, to be really responsible, you cannot just say, okay, well, if this doesn't work out, then I tried my best. That doesn't work. I mean, to be responsible means that you actually carry through to the end. And maybe he had other women too that he was preparing, but only the True Mother Kang actually came to Pennsylvania
right at the right time.
Right at the right time. Yes, she came to Pennsylvania, and she lived with the king for 9 months, and testified to Father through the king's report, and also to members who visited her. Consistently, just every time she would open her mouth, it would be, testimony about Father, again and again and again and again and again. So during the 9 months, she clearly qualified herself to become the bride of Christ at the perfection level, and the bride of God. Yeah. I was telling the Korean audience this morning that, a lot of Christians also were expecting something to happen on September 23rd. Some people were expecting to be raptured. So if someone comes up to me, if my sister-in-law, who was expecting to be raptured on Saturday, and I believe she's still here, comes up to me and says, well, so Tim, what happened on Saturday, September 23rd? I'm going to tell her, God got married. That's what happened. God got married on September 23rd. Because this was the 7th and the 8th stage, actually, also. Because once you're in the 7th stage, you go directly to the 8th stage, is what Reverend Yu's explanation is. And we'll get that detailed explanation out as soon as possible. But that is what happened on September 23rd. God got married.
I think it's a good point you brought up that, and Reverend Yu brought up, is that the True Mother Kang was absolutely faithful and obedient to Father her entire life. So she already fulfilled that condition. It wasn't like she somehow appeared out of nowhere with no foundation and
she's been going through a course as well.
Exactly.
She's been going through a course.
Absolute faith and absolute obedience, absolute love. Whereas the Han Mother did as well in the format up to the 6 stages. She also performed an incredible course, but in the final moments, it was True Mother Kang that fulfilled the final stages.
Yes. So it is so exciting for women around the world and for men around the world that we now have a mother, and as the Chun Sung-kyung reads.
Isn't the king so happy too?
Yes,
it's amazing to see him around True Mother Kang.
Yes.
He is literally born again.
And some people may be asking, well, what happens to the Han Mother now? And I think that is what our Rima this morning in John 19 indicates, that someone will take care of her.
If she repents. And,
someone will take care of her. Yeah, of course, she has to repent. If she doesn't repent, then she'll have a very, very difficult time, because no one will take care of her. she will be there in the bottom of hell.
Yeah, the king has mentioned that she'll come back as a member.
Yes, and she will be. She will also be blessed. Mm-hmm. The king, I'm sure, I believe that once she repents and comes to the king and bows down to her son and asks for forgiveness, she will at some point be blessed to someone or another by her son. Mm-hmm. Of course, repentance, asking for forgiveness, does not excuse us from responsibility for our actions, taking responsibility for our actions. And so, and what she has done is worse than what Eve did, because Eve was a very young girl, 16 years old. Han Mother was with Christ for 50 years, 50 plus years, and was raised up by him and educated by him, and yet she denied him. So there's a very, very serious price to be paid by her. But she will be taken care of at some point after she repents. Shall we take a break and then go to the NFL? Yes, so let's take a break and we'll come back and start talking about the NFL.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group, with a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group, made in the USA. Visit car.com today. Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group, with a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood, the history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun, to the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group, made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
Welcome back to the King's Report for Saturday. Not Saturday again. Why is it that always? Wednesday, September 27th, 2017.
It's been a little intense the last few weeks.
But I have this pattern, though, of...
all the time.
Yeah. I have this pattern it's happened several times now where I've tried to say that Wednesday is actually Saturday. Fake news. This is not Saturday, Wednesday. Let's talk about the NFL now. So this is AP Nielsen football ratings off 11% this year. coming out of New York. Through 3 weeks, viewership for national telecasts of NFL games is down 11% this season compared to 2016. The Nielsen company said on Tuesday. Nielsen said the games averaged 17.63 million viewers for the first 3 weeks of last season and have dipped to 15.65 million this year. So that's down approximately 2 million viewers. The Nielsen figures don't include many of the Sunday afternoon games that are shown to a regional audience but not a national one. The NFL ratings are in focus because of President Donald Trump's suggestion that viewers are turned off by a protest against police brutality that began with quarterback Colin Kaepernick refusing to stand for the national anthem. The protest spread rapidly this past weekend following the president's criticism of people involved. Next week's ratings will be even more closely watched since conservative groups and Fox News Channel's Sean Hannity have called for people angered by the protest to boycott this weekend's games. Meanwhile, round one of the new ideological battle on cable television news went to Hannity, who has moved to a time slot directly competing with MSNBC's Rachel Maddow. Nielsen said Hannity had 3.27 viewers on Monday compared to 2.66 million for Maddow. CNN, which showed a special healthcare debate at the same time hour, had 1.45 million viewers. Okay, so that's the situation on the Nielsen ratings. And there was a couple other headlines regarding this. Ravens national anthem singer quits. Pittsburgh store selling Steelers gear facing boycott because the Pittsburgh, I guess except for one guy, all stayed in the locker room or something like that during this past game. And for the national anthem, President fuels another divisive debate. All right. Greg, what do you want to say about this?
Well, I think, American football is, at its core, American.
Yes.
I think I was raised in upstate New York. Being a New York Giants fan was like mom and apple pie.
That was a religion.
It was a religion. It was something that you talked about during the week. You got geared up for the game. For myself and my friends, we'd all get out and play football after the game because we were so excited and revved up by all these players. And there was a day not too long ago where football players were idolized in a way that not by celebrity or making money, but because of hard work. And they didn't make a lot of money 30, 40 years ago. They were lucky if they made $60,000, $70,000. I'm not sure what the average pay was, but it wasn't like it is today, where a player can literally be making $50 million a year, $50 million, or $30 million, or $20 million, or $10 million, a huge amount of money. And they have become this celebrity class now. And along with becoming a celebrity comes very liberal kind of politics. And I think that's what's happened to the NFL. They have fallen into this trap of idol worshiping themselves. Right. And they really think they're
part of the elite, haven't they?
They have. They are a super elite. Athletes today are a super elite class. And that's how they look at themselves. And they really think they are the moral high ground for the rest of us to dictate and to lecture us on how we should be behaving. And I think what we're seeing now is that your fan base of the NFL are hardcore blue-collar workers that are construction guys. They're sweating. They're out there making a buck, trying to support their families. And people like me, I'm in that class. I'm a hardworking guy. Nothing comes easy, in terms of supporting family and doing what's right, have reached a tipping point. Me and a lot of people I know have been complaining for years about this class of athletes that really think they're something super special. And so there's been this kind of building tension between the fan base and the super elite athlete, where we're pretty much fed up. We think this has gone way too far beyond. If you feel uncomfortable when you're watching a game now because you know what these guys are getting paid and what they're saying, and it's just there's not a fit there anymore. So I think the working class fan there's a total disconnect now between upper management of these NFL teams and players and the fan base. And I think it's being reflected now. They're saying enough is enough. I know myself, I have not watched one NFL game this year, which is extraordinary. I used to tape them all. I used to analyze them. I used to be really into it. You know, this was it was a religion, and I have not watched one. And now I'm thoroughly disgusted. I don't watch NBA games anymore. I don't watch NFL games anymore. I used to, be very into it. So I think I'm a representative body of this kind of fan base that says enough is enough. And we agree with President Trump. And we're boycotting through our dollars. We're not watching the advertisers anymore. We're not spending money on games. We're not doing any of that stuff.
My connection with the football is not nearly as strong as yours. The first football game I watched was when I was I think it was my Cub Scout troop went to a game at it was in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas between the Cowboys and a team called the Washington Redskins. And I spent the whole game trying to figure out which Washington this team was from, whether Washington State or Washington D.C. Never did figure it out. And then, of course, trying to figure out where's the ball. Anyways, of course, my knowledge of football has increased quite substantially since then. But still, I don't have the emotional connection to football that many Americans have. But I really have a much stronger connection to the national anthem. It bothers me that players are protesting the national anthem. And according to this article, it's a protest about police brutality, but I'm sure there are many other ways to protest police brutality, if that is in fact going on. But to protest something that is a symbol of the nation itself means that you're protesting the nation, actually. And you can say, yeah, okay, we got problems in America, and that's always true, of course. There are many problems in America, and they're probably getting worse. But to protest the existence of the nation itself is kind of saying, like, this nation shouldn't exist. We need to, or it's actually denying the integrity of the nation itself.
And disrespecting for those who sacrificed for the freedoms.
Absolutely. Yeah, because people have died for this country, and the national anthem is a symbol of their sacrifice, of all the sacrifice that has gone into creating the nation and preserving the nation. And so protesting the national anthem is something that should be beyond the pale, I think, of a civil society.
What they could do is they could all stand up at the national anthem with their hands on their hearts, appreciating everything that America has afforded all of us and to the world. And then after the national anthem, they go to their knee and pray for ending of police brutality. Something like that would be much more effective than disrespecting the national anthem.
Is a football game a venue for doing that? Is a football game? I mean, a football game is for football, right? Is it a venue for political statements or even social statements? You're there you're paid to play football.
Exactly.
Play football.
Right.
You're there. There are millions of kids who would like to grow up and become an NFL player, and just a very, very few, maybe 0.1% or something like that. I don't know the statistics, but very, very few people actually get that opportunity. And then American society has arranged our priorities in such a way that people who do it well, as you say, get paid $10 million or more, tens of millions of dollars. So you're there, you're paid to play football. I think that is your job. That's your chosen profession. So play football. If you want to say something about police brutality, I would think people would say it outside the stadium, frankly.
Do it after the game, yeah, at a restaurant or something.
But the Hollywood movie stars have the same sort of concept that because they can create movies or be a part of a movie creating project, and because a lot of people know their name, and because they are sort of upheld as somehow gods and goddesses, that they can get up on stage and talk about politics. And
but they don't do that during a movie.
They don't do that during a movie, right? I mean, Jennifer Lawrence doesn't somehow during the Hunger Games turn around and say, "Hey, I hate President Trump."
Right.
You know, she doesn't do that. You know, and I like watching football. I have not. I'm also like you. I'm one of the 2 million that has not tuned in this season. But I like watching football. I like it's always good to see people challenging their limitations, their physical limitations, you know, and going up against each other in competition like that, and really physical conflict and confrontation, but according to the rules and stuff like that. And so I enjoy football, watching football, and I also enjoy watching Hunger Games. You know, even though Jennifer Lawrence, her politics are really, really terrible, still I enjoy watching her act. And reciting lines that other people have written for her.
Pretending. She's a pretender.
Yes. You know, and all these special effects that some other very talented people have created for her. But anyway, I enjoy these things. But leave politics out of it, all right? There's other places, you know. Frankly, we watch Hunger Games and we watch football as a kind of an escapist entertainment, I think. Don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, so,
and there is a place for
don't
that.
interrupt our escapist entertainment with reality.
And another thing,
reality.
President Trump is also exercising his freedom of speech.
Absolutely, yes,
You know,
yes.
I don't understand why these people can kneel and be perfectly fine with that, but they get outraged that President Trump is exercising his First Amendment rights.
Yes, his First Amendment rights. Yes, yes. I mean, he's not, he's not preventing them from exercising their right. So
yeah, he didn't crack down martial law and close down the stadium as a result of what they're doing. He's just expressing his opinion, which happens to be the opinion of probably 80-90% of football fans.
Now, if you want an example of someone violating another person's First Amendment rights, it would be, you know, if in North Korea someone protested the national anthem and someone came up behind him and shot him. That would be a violation of First Amendment rights.
Right. And that does happen.
It does happen, yes, in North Korea. So we have an analysis in the LA Times about this, President Trump's involvement, and I haven't read it yet, but let's read through it. I can probably imagine what it's going to say, but let's read through it and we can take it apart once we do. America once again finds itself where it has been so often since the day Donald Trump descended an escalator to a podium on the lower in a tower named for him to announce his presidential candidacy. Pulled into the vortex of a partisanship as the master publicist plays notes of division and dispute. See, that already I disagree with that, because you know the divisions were not created by President Trump. I'm going to make a no, I better not. I was going to make a confession, but I'm not going to. Many people, misguided people, voted for Obama in 2008. No admissions.
Really?
In 2008, because we saw the divisions in America. Oops, did I say we?
I'm shocked.
We saw the divisions in America.
I think we need a repentance and a confession first, then a repentance.
I've already done that. We saw the divisions in America, and we thought that. But listen, the other choice was what? McCain? Was it McCain? Yes, it was McCain. Yes, it was McCain. No. Yes, it was McCain in 2008. And Sarah Palin. Why were we even presented with such a choice? That's where the fault is. Yeah. All right. But the divisions were already there in 2008. Very serious divisions. And all right, some of us misguided people were hopeful that someone like Obama might help to start a healing of those divisions. Well, the result was quite the opposite, wasn't it? But that was the result. The opposite was the result. But the point is that the divisions were not created by President Trump. And the disputes are not created by President Trump. They've been growing and growing and growing. And they've come to a head. And a group of people in America, 20-some million, I guess, group of people, got up and said, we're not going to take this anymore. And rejected someone who who was actually, through identity politics, was actually trying to base her campaign on utilizing and exploiting those divisions and those disputes. Mm-hmm. And so, and the media keeps trying to say that, oh, President Trump is divisive. America's already divided. But what he is doing in many cases, he's, of course, his statements, yes, sometimes highlight those divisions, but that's because the media keeps trying to paper over those divisions, saying, oh, no, because if everyone would just agree with the progressives and agree with the left, then there would be no divisions. You know, if everyone would just have absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute loyalty towards Satan, there would be no division, right?
Like in North Korea.
Yes, in North Korea there's no division, right?
Yeah.
I think actually 100% of the people vote for that guy. There is no division in North Korea, yeah. So if you want a country without division, North Korea is your model. Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's continue. President Trump's continued stoking of debate over football players kneeling during the national anthem and the way the subject has dominated public discussion raised anew the question that surrounds many Trump controversies. Is this part of a plan? Does he believe he gains political advantage from playing off national divisions on topics as fraught as race relations and patriotism, or does the resulting chaos deliver personal satisfaction? Oh, come on!
They think he's sick. That's what they're trying to promote.
No,
now.
Listen, that's not what's going on here. We have a patriotic American in the White House. That's what's going on.
That's right.
And we have an American in the White House who doesn't like to see the national anthem being disrespected.
Absolutely.
And he is expressing that, and in doing so, he is expressing something that many of us would like to express.
Right.
Huh?
Yep.
I can't do this anymore. Let's go on to something else. Los Angeles Times. Okay, so anything else you want to say about the NFL?
No,
okay.
I think that's good.
All right, let's take a break.
It's a good thing.
And
people are voting with their dollars.
Yep, right? That's right.
That's also very much our First Amendment rights.
Yes, that is our First Amendment right. No one can come to our house and force us to watch NFL games.
Right. Or spend money on souvenirs or whatever.
Which, by the way, would happen in North Korea, because in North Korea, the channels are actually set, and you cannot change the channel. If you turn on the TV, it's already set to North Korea's equivalent of an NFL game, which is a mass, their mass, what do you call it, their performances, yeah.
Parades.
All right, let's take a break and come back after a minute or so.
Car Arms, Magnum Research, and Auto Ordnance. The Car Firearms Group. With a diverse product line that blends American craftsmanship with cutting-edge technology. It's no secret why gun enthusiasts choose Car Firearms Group. From the Desert Eagle and Baby Desert Eagle made famous by Hollywood. The history of the 1911 and the Tommy gun. To the best in compact concealed carry. Car Firearms Group is not only the first name in personal defense, it's a name that has earned the respect of gun enthusiasts around the world. Concealment, innovative technology, value, accuracy, and history. Car Firearms Group. Made in the USA. Visit car.com today.
Welcome back to the King's Report for September 27th, 2017. Tim Elder, and I didn't actually introduce you, did I? You're probably wondering who this man is.
King Greg Knoll.
He's King Greg Knoll. Not only is he a king, he's also an entrepreneur and a businessman.
And a farmer.
Yes.
I'm a learning farmer. I'm a
learning
developing
farmer.
farmer.
Yes. Thank you for being with us. Sorry for not introducing you before. I wanted to go to a story that's also linked on Drudge, but takes us away from all this other stuff. Spain to deploy police to prevent Catalan independence vote. There's a part of Spain, Catalonia, I think it is, the name is, and they want to become independent from Spain. And so next Sunday, October 1st, they've scheduled, or, when I say they, one of the leaders of this movement, of independence movement, have scheduled a referendum. And the Spanish authorities are doing everything they can to block this, sending in police to close down the locations that have been designated as polling places, confiscating the printed ballots and things like this.
Wow.
This is rather interesting that this is taking place. To me, it's rather interesting that in a Western society, I mean, aside from, Puerto Rico can have a vote. Yes, we want to become a U.S. state, and then we ignore that. But people are afraid to vote, right? Whether or not the vote leads to something is the next question, is another question. But, Puerto Rico has voted, I think, a few times that they want to become a state, become the 51st state or something like that. And they keep getting ignored. So, I mean, yeah, you can vote, but then, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But to Spain, that's not the case. And, in relation to the way that Choniguk is organized, this is very interesting to me. Because in Choniguk, if you have a state, you have states of Choniguk, and if somebody in one of the counties of that state want to secede, there's nothing to prevent them from doing that. So anyway, let's look at this, because police will be deploying at polling stations to prevent people from voting in the Catalan independence referendum the Spanish government has confirmed. This is scheduled for next Sunday. Although Catalonia regional government has insisted that the unilateral poll will go ahead on Sunday, the Spanish government has vowed to stop the vote, which it says is a clear violation of the Constitution. Spain's Constitutional Court has suspended the legislation underpinning the referendum while it rules on its legality. A spokesman for the Spanish government's Catalan delegation said on Tuesday that the region's prosecutor had ordered the Mossos d'Esquadra, Catalonia's police force, to take control of the polling booths and identify those in charge. So I think this shows the state of democratic tradition in Europe. Spain became a democracy not too long ago, what was it, 70s or 80s, I guess? They finally became they've only been a democracy about 30 or 40 years or so. The order has been conveyed and it will be executed with all normality, he said. The Spanish government said the steps it had taken over the past week, including raiding Catalan government offices, arresting 14 officials, and seizing almost 10 million ballot papers, meant the vote could not take place. Today we can affirm that there will be no effective referendum in Catalonia, the Spanish government's representative in Catalonia, Enric Millo, told reporters on Tuesday. All the referendum's logistics have been dismantled. Well, congratulations, you just dismantled democracy. In an order the police issued on Monday, the prosecutor's office said it would take the names of anyone participating in the vote and confiscate relevant documents. Take the names of anyone participating in the vote. Anyone in possession of the keys or entrance codes to a polling booth could be considered a collaborator to crimes of disobedience, misuse of office, and misappropriation of funds, the order said. Wow. This is taking place in a Western European country.
Seems like this would fuel greater anger.
Yes, I would think so, yes. Wouldn't it? Yes. Yes. When you tell people don't do something, that just means that more people will do it. However, despite the words and actions of the Spanish government, not to mention the deployment of thousands of extra police officers to Catalonia, the regional government is adamant that the referendum cannot be stopped. Catalonia's regional president, Carles, I'm not going to try and pronounce that, has accused the Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy, maybe, of acting beyond the limits of respectable democracy in his efforts to prevent the referendum. He has also compared the Spanish government's behavior to the repression of the Franco era and said it is only serving to drive more Catalans towards independence. This is probably true.
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. Those fence sitters are probably being pushed over.
Yes. In Huelva, the southwestern region of Andalusia, Guardia Civil officers dispatched to Catalonia for the referendum were draped in Spanish flags and cheered on by locals with cries of "Go for them." In Barcelona, residents have been giving out red carnations to regional police, a nod to Portugal's 1974 revolution that toppled its military dictatorship when people put red carnations in the barrels of soldiers' guns. Speaking in Washington alongside Donald Trump, Rajoy said a unilateral declaration of independence would be very wrong and questioned the integrity of Sunday's vote. Now, actually, unfortunately, the U.S. is siding with the Spanish government. USA opposes Catalonia independence. I don't know why they would oppose it. Why would they oppose it? I mean, why would they care one way or the other? Or they can care, but why would they get involved one way or the other? Trump, Rajoy commit to fighting threats to democracy. Threats to democracy? What? I don't understand this. How is it that shutting down polling places is defending democracy? I don't know. President Trump and Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy committed to fighting various international threats to democratic values during a joint press conference Tuesday afternoon. Both leaders acknowledged recent provocations from North Korea and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's regime, as well as radical terrorist groups, as threats to democracy in both Spain and the U.S. Together, Spain and the United States hope for peace, Mr. Trump said. So where is it? Talk about Catalonia. In days Spanish faces a referendum, the Catalonian regionals, Mr. Trump stood in solidarity with Rajoy, who protested that Catalonia cannot legally hold a valid democratic referendum. I'm for united Spain, Mr. Trump said. I really think the people of Catalonia would stay with Spain, he later added. Is this McMaster? Is this Kelly? You know, okay. Do you have anything you want to say about this? If not, we'll go on to something else.
No, I think it's, okay. I don't know enough about it to really make a
meanwhile, in Alabama yesterday, of course, President Trump suffered a major embarrassing defeat because the Republican Party was holding a primary to replace Senator now Attorney General Sessions, to replace him in the Senate. And President Trump endorsed a guy who...
Strange guy.
Well, his name was strange. I guess it still is strange. So the establishment Republican Party was behind this guy. I think it's Luther Strange, I think it is. And President Trump endorsed the establishment GOP guy. And
much to the surprise, right, of a lot of patriots and people, Trump supporters. And
the Trump supporters said, no, we want this other guy, Roy Moore. And President Trump tweeted in favor of Luther Strange, and Breitbart wrote articles in favor of Roy Moore. So this was a real situation where a rift, actually.
With Bannon and
Bannon,
Trump.
yes. And always Roy Moore was ahead in the polls, and sure enough, yesterday he won. And so...
Didn't look good for President Trump, that's for
Doesn't
sure.
look good, yes.
Where was Sessions standing on it? Do you know who he was supporting?
I don't know that. But really, there was an article here that I'm trying to find in Breitbart that said that it turns out that it's not about Trump, it's about Trumpism. And that...
That's a good point.
Yeah. So the people who supported Trump will continue to stand up for their values because they voted for Trump, and we voted for Trump. See, I've learned since 2008. People can improve. People can repent and indemnify. Stand up for our values. And if President Trump goes against them, then we continue to pursue our values. Say something while I'm looking for this article.
Well, yeah, I think I'd be interested to know what Sessions felt about it, because I feel Sessions is a very honorable man, but
yes.
I don't know the. But yeah, I know a lot of people were hoping for more, the Patriots, because he stood for the, like, I think that's a good point. Trumpism is really the philosophy of more of a libertarian point of view, and we're not so much attached to Donald Trump per se.
Yes, this is an article on Breitbart by John Nolte, and the headline is, Nolte, Alabama's deafening message, the movement is about Trumpism, not Trump. I think that's very important to remember, especially for Mr. Trump. With the results now clear in Alabama's hotly contested U.S. Senate Republican primary race, the unambiguous message coming from the GOP voters responsible for Roy Moore's underdog victory is clear-cut, a crucial reminder to everyone that Trumpism is not about any one person. More importantly, what this humiliating loss tells President Trump is that Trumpism is not even about him. The indisputable lesson here for the president is that even he, the man who started the movement, is not bigger than the promises, ideas, agenda and platform he ran on. Yes, Trump ran on specifics such as a border wall, the repealing of Obamacare, and tax cuts. Trump's existential promise, though, the overall rationale for his insurgent campaign was all about draining the swamp or taking the fight to the D.C. establishment, not just within the corrupt national media and the cancerous Democratic Party, but also within the Republican Party, which, as we have seen over the last 8 months, is no better than the others. By fully backing Luther Strange, the poster boy for everything his very own movement despises, Trump defiantly violated his existential promise to us, the promise to drain the hideous D.C. swamp. In a different world, in a world where for the last 8 months, while in complete charge of the federal government, the Republican Party actually delivered on its promises, in a fantasy land where the GOP did not expose itself as a gang of feckless cowards, unwilling to keep even the Obamacare repeal promise that defined the party's existence for 7 years, maybe Trump could have gotten away with supporting a Luther Strange. But this is not the world we live in. The reality is that the GOP chose instead to use their once-in-a-lifetime political opportunity to pander to media hoaxes and Democrats to launch countless investigations against Trump and to push for citizenship for millions of illegal Democrats. Had the Republican Party actually honored the national mandate Trump's 2016 victory called for, Trump supporters might have come to believe that the president had somehow managed to fix the GOP, to give the spineless a spine. In that case, his support for Luther Strange might not have felt like such a mistake and a betrayal. Here is another lesson for the president. Here's another lesson the president here's another lesson for the president should have not been forced to learn through tonight's defeat. That when a Republican swamp creature leans over and whispers its rancid breath in your ear, just come on board this one time. Just play the game a little bit. Not only will the media like you more, not only will we like you more, we will repeal Obamacare for you. See, it's all about relationships. Going along to get along. That's how D.C. works. Become one with us, and we will give you everything you want. That is not a promise. It is a trap. A call for the believer to sail right into the rocks and commit political suicide. You see, there is just no reasoning with professional con men and grifters. There is no compromising with those who have knowingly spent the last 7 years hustling their own supporters. There is no bargaining with the narcissistic vampires willing to sell their rotten souls for acceptance within the coven that is the mainstream media. This is simply no lie. The Republican establishment will not tell. No back, they will not stab. With the 2018 midterms coming, another historic political opportunity looms, an opportunity for the movement to repeal and replace even more of the Republican establishment. And if Trump has not learned the lesson in Alabama, the movement certainly has, that we do not need Trump in order to obtain victories for Trumpism.
Wow, very well written.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm for one in that category. I really never have liked Donald Trump as a person per se. I like what he stands for, and his approach though is very, I could never believe he would be elected. I was really shocked. But as time went along, Trumpism did win me over. But as a person, I would say that's a very, very good distinguishing point.
So when he was running, he, as a businessman, a good businessman is someone who can identify a market and say, oh, here's a need that I can fill. And I think that's what Donald Trump did. As he was campaigning, or maybe before he was campaigning, he saw a market that he could fulfill, and that's what he did. But once in the White House, he's sort of losing touch with that market, isn't it? And always that's a very bad thing to happen to a businessman. If when you lose touch with the market, your business is in jeopardy. All right, alarms are going off, which means it's time to quit. Music is playing, alarms are going off. It's 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, should we wait until 8 minutes after to close the program?
No, the world may explode, so let's end it now. All right, thank you very much for being with us this morning. And a lot's going on. We only covered a part of it, but I think we covered the most important parts of it. Please celebrate the emergence of a new true mother, the first true mother to stand in the perfection stage. And let's go forward with hope. Let's go forward with hope. Not all good things happening will be good, but a lot of good things will happen eventually. Thank you very much, and God bless, Godspeed, and may His kingdom come.
Adieu.